Total Surface Transportation Efficiency Act of 1991 to designate the Texas and New Mexico portions of the future interstate designated segments of the Port to Plains corridor as Interstate Route 27 and for other purposes.
Pursuant to the rule, the gentleman from New Jersey, Mr. Keene, and the gentlewoman from the District of Columbia, Ms. Norton, will each control 20 minutes. The chair recognizes the gentleman from New Jersey.
Madam Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that members have 5 legislative days in which to revise and extend their remarks and insert extraneous materials into the record on S.992 as amended.
Without objection.
Madam Speaker, I yield myself as much time as I may consume.
The gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I am proud to rise in support of S.992, the I-27 Numbering Act of 2023, a bipartisan bill that has passed the Senate. The House Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure favorably reported companion legislation that amended a bill introduced by Congressman Jody Arrington in November. This legislation officially designates segments of the Ports to Plains corridor in Texas, previously marked as a future federal interstate route at Interstate Route 27. The Ports to Plains corridor connects the other highways spanned from the U.S.-Mexico border in Texas through our country's heartland to Alberta, Canada, and serves as a crucial infrastructure asset for American agriculture and energy accessibility. This designation will benefit farmers, ranchers, and producers across Texas and the country, boosting our trade economy. Madam Speaker, I urge support of this legislation and reserve the balance of my time.
The gentleman reserves. The gentlewoman from D.C. is recognized.
Madam Speaker, this bill would designate portions of the Ports to Plains corridor in Texas as the future Interstate 27. This route plays an important role in commerce, helping to facilitate the movement of agricultural products from hubs to market. This bill incorporates technical assistance from the Federal Highway Administration to prevent duplicate routing numbering from being used on different roadway spurs. This change will make the designation clearer for travelers. Similar bipartisan legislation passed the Senate by unanimous consent this year. I urge my colleagues to support this bill, and I reserve the balance of my time.
The gentlewoman reserves. The gentleman is recognized.
Madam Speaker, I yield 2 minutes to the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Pfluger.
The gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, and thank you to my colleague as well. Madam Speaker, I rise today in support of Senate 992 to officially designate the Texas and New Mexico portions of future interstate designated segments of the Ports to Plains corridor as Interstate Route 27. The Ports to Plains corridor is a significant north-south transportation corridor that will unlock transportation capabilities for the energy industry in the Permian Basin and enhance Texas's key economic engines of international trade, energy, and the largest agricultural production in the country. This is a big deal for this part of the United States, specifically for Texas. When you think about energy security being national security, Interstate 27 is going to play a massive role in allowing the delivery of that energy, not just to our country, but also throughout the rest of the world. In addition, food security is national security, and Interstate 27 will play a massive role in allowing the delivery of food to our own country. This new designation literally paves the way for safer roads in West Texas and clearly marks Midland and Odessa as the energy hub of our nation. I want to thank Chairman Jody Arrington, Senator Ted Cruz for their hard work, their partnership on this important issue, and I encourage my colleagues on both sides of the aisle to support this legislation to make sure that we can continue to deliver energy and food throughout the United States. With that, I yield back.
Thank you.
The gentleman.
And I reserve.
Reserves?
Yep.
The gentlewoman from D.C. is recognized.
Madam Speaker, I wish to yield 2 minutes to my friend Representative Cuellar from Texas.
The gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I want to thank my good friend, Representative Norton, for her leadership on getting this bill to the floor, and I thank you for yielding to me. I also want to thank my good friend, Mr. Pfluger, and especially my good friend, Mr. Arrington, for carrying this legislation. On the Senate side, it was Senator Cruz, Senator Lujan, Senator Cornyn, for their work on this important legislation. I rise in support of this bill to designate a portion of the Port of Plains corridor as Interstate 27. I-27 starts in my hometown of Laredo, Texas, which ranks number one in trade of all the nation's 450 airports, seaports, and border crossings. It starts off in Laredo and then goes up into West Texas and goes off to into New Mexico. In FY22, in the appropriations bill, I was able to secure language designating this as a future interstate, making it eligible for federal funding. This bill today formally names it the I-27 in Texas and in New Mexico. Upgrading this route to an interstate will result in $17.2 billion of an increase in the Texas GDP and 178,000 of new jobs. I certainly urge my colleagues in the House to pass this bipartisan bill to support trade growth in Texas and New Mexico. I see my good friend, Mr. Arrington, and I want to thank him for his leadership in West Texas. And I'm glad that we're able to connect Laredo with West Texas and on to New Mexico. And with that, Madam Speaker, I yield back the balance of my time.
The gentlewoman reserves. The gentleman from New Jersey is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I yield 5 minutes to the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Arrington.
I thank the gentleman from New Jersey, and I am thrilled to once again join forces with my close friend, ally, and champion for rural America, Henry Cuellar, to do some good not only for Texas or for the food, fuel, and fiber capital of the world, which is West Texas, but to provide energy dominance and agriculture security and independence for this great nation of ours. No small thing for the hardworking, God-fearing, freedom-loving people in rural America. And I'm not just talking about West Texas where we're from, Henry. I'm saying all up and down the backbone of the United States of America and heartland communities, all the way from the largest inland port in Laredo, as you mentioned, to the Canadian border. That ag and energy corridor is critical for our food security and energy independence. And it will more seamlessly and cost effectively and safely move that product, that critical product, to export terminals and markets around the world, giving our farmers, ranchers, and energy producers a much needed advantage. Mr. Cuellar and I worked together on many of the elements that I see as essential to the future prosperity of rural America. I always say rural America is not just the energy basin and breadbasket, it's the backbone of America's traditional values. And again, I want to thank Mr. Cuellar for being such a loud and proud champion for these forgotten men and women. But the formula is straightforward. We need freer markets, less taxes and regulations, namely. We need fairer trade deals for our producers and manufacturers. And Mr. Cuellar and I worked hand in hand on USMCA, a much better deal for these United States of America, and especially the workers here, the best workers in the world here in the United States, a reliable farm bill safety net, which we're working on and have to, as the chair lady knows, we have to get the next farm bill done so that we can provide stability in the ag economy. And finally, critical infrastructure. Well, Mr. Cuellar and I have worked on new payment models for rural hospitals that provided greater access for these hardworking folks. And now we've got this artery from Laredo through my hometown of Plainview. I grew up, Mr. Cuellar, just not even a mile from I-27. And to think that this project has come to fruition, at least on the Texas and New Mexico side. And if we can connect those dots all the way to Canada, I think we are going to bless generations of not only folks in Laredo and the greater West Texas area, but we're going to bless Americans all over this country. You know, we have the lowest spend in terms of discretionary spending for families on food. And a big part of that is our producers, but another piece is critical infrastructure. So I want to say hats off to Henry Cuellar, my Democrat co-lead. I want to thank Senator Cruz and Cornyn, the leads in the Senate, August Pfluger, Ronnie Jackson, Teresa Fernandez, Troy Nels, Lance Gooden, and then, of course, the folks from Ports to Plains led by John Osborne and James Bouchamp from Midland, Odessa, who leads Motran. A lot of partners here to make this a success. But what a great day for rural America. And God bless my partner and friend, Henry Cuellar, and God bless those freedom-loving people out working hard to feed and clothe the American people in rural America. I yield the balance of my time.
The gentleman reserves. The gentlewoman is recognized.
I yield. I have no more speakers.
The gentlewoman yields. Gentleman from New Jersey.
I reserve. I have no speakers either. So okay. I yield myself some time as I may consume.
The gentleman from New Jersey is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Again, I am proud to support this bipartisan legislation championed by my colleague, Mr. Arrington of Texas, here in the House, along with Mr. Cruz and Mr. Cornyn in the Senate. Ports to Plains corridor connects with other routes to span more than 2,300 miles across 8 states. It connects significant agriculture and energy centers to the rest of our nation, which relies on these industries. This bill ensures congressional follow-through on this designation by formally naming segments of the corridor in Texas Interstate Route 27 and will contribute to the continuity of American advantages in agriculture, international trade, connectivity, and economic development. Madam Speaker, I urge support of this bill, and I yield back the balance of my time.
The gentleman yields. The question is, will the House suspend the rules and pass Senate 992 as amendment? Those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. In the opinion of the chair, 2/3 being in the affirmative, the rules are suspended. The bill is passed, and without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid on the table. For what purpose does the gentleman from New Jersey seek recognition?
Madam Speaker, I move that the House suspend the rules and